Trinidad and Tobago.
The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey is announcing that Cabinet has approved both men to sit on an energy standing committee, chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley.
They have not been charged with anything, and they are upright citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and free to serve.
The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey to Keith Rowley. The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre. And Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey is announcing that Cabinet has approved both men to chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley.
They have not been charged with anything, and they are upright citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications. The exit of these two men was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey is announcing that Cabinet has approved both men to sit on an energy standing committee, chaired by Prime Minister Dr.
Anything, and they are upright citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and free to serve in that capacity.
The case against Professor Julian subsequently collapsed, while the matter involving Malcolm Jones is still before the courts. Also named today were the members of a new Physical Infrastructure Committee.
It will look at the establishment of the mass transit system, the constructions of highways, railroads, overpasses, and interchanges in the various parts of the country, the construction of a fast-ferry port in Tuku, and the construction of a modern fishing port in Maruga.
This committee is also led by the Prime Minister. Chester Sambrano, CNC3. The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey is announcing that Cabinet has approved both men to sit on an energy standing committee, chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley.
They have not been charged with anything, and they are upright citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and free to serve in that capacity.
The case against Professor Julian subsequently collapsed, while the matter involving Malcolm Jones is still before the courts. Also named today were the members of a new Physical Infrastructure Committee.
It will look at
circumstances beyond our control gave us some good news. The Minister of Finance reported that because of the unusually high oil price and the improvement in the gas price, we are going to get a bit more money than we had budgeted for. So, circumstances beyond our control gave us some good news. The Minister of Finance reported that because of the unusually high oil price and the improvement in the gas price, we are going to get a bit more money than we had budgeted for. Had we not got that increase,
Let's talk about the energy sector's performance in the last 8 years. Let's start, I'll take you from Chaguaramas all the way to Galeota. Chaguaramas, Republic Bank closed down, Royal Bank closed down, Zanzibar closed down, Massey stores closed down, all because of lower energy sector activity on the peninsula. We go down to Point Lisas, Mita closed down, MHTL M1 closed down, Yara ammonia plant closed down, Titan methanol closed down. We go down to Point Apia, the refinery closed down. We go down to Point Fortin. We now have 3 LNG trains when we used to have 4. And the 3 that we have operating at 65% capacity. We turn around the corner and we go to Galeota. Galeota is a ghost town, right? Because energy sector activity drilling has fallen 63% in 2015 to 2022. Gas production has fallen 30%. Oil production fallen 27%. Employment, persons with jobs in the energy sector has fallen 54% in the last 8 years. So I don't know how that could be construed as a sector moving in the right direction. There is hope on the horizon if we get Manatee. Shell hasn't sanctioned it. Dragon, we don't know when that's going to come. We know the minister signed something, everybody clapped. If I see somebody clapping for something they're not aware of, I might think they're mad. But nobody knows what was signed, and nobody could say when that dragon gas will arrive in Trinidad. So the actuals, we talk about forecasts and we talk about actuals. When you look at the actual numbers published by the Ministry of Energy, gas production is not moving in the correct direction. We've been under 3 billion cubic feet of gas per day since, I think, January 2021. Those plants that are remaining operational in Point Lisas and Atlantic are doing so at 70–80% capacity. So we are in a worrying space. And I'm saying, the message I'd like to get out tonight is that I don't see any sort of reprieve for that narrative I just gave there until 2028.
And we look at those numbers, we had 31 less seats running on a UNC ticket than the PNM. Less, But we got 43,000 more votes. And if the maths is definitely mathsing, the maths is mathsing in the favor of the United National Congress. And when you transpose those results from the local election and you put them into constituencies, I have good news for you tonight if you didn't do it yet. We have crunched the numbers, and the UNC would have won every single marginal seat when we transpose those results. So don't get distracted and fooled. Do not become distracted. We are on the right pathway. We are heading on the road to victory whenever those elections are called. Christmas. So many councillors and MPs will be hosting Christmas treats and toy distributions over the next month. So we can look forward to that. We continue to work and to deliver.
I have a political cemetery. It's not for people like you and me. It is for all them politicians. And I dig in their grave, no fuck with me hand. I find some of them, they living too long. And every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down. So I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he. With joy in my heart, put him down with glee. All of them useless politicians, only making up numbers in my island. Al-Rari, I refuse body. I leave them Muslim, them to deal with he. Big smile on my face and with maybe a hand. It's time to move trash from out of this land.
Ladies and gentlemen, this emancipation celebration that we started in Trinidad and Tobago very many years ago, things seem to go in circles because it began with blood, a loss of value of life, and today we are well into the 21st century. And if one might be a little cynical, you might want to think that we are recreating an environment that we've known before, particularly for African people. Ladies and gentlemen, the color of our skin is never going to change. But that significant piece of biology has established itself as a marker for us. Racism is alive and well in the 21st century. And slavery, which we now commonly call human trafficking, is an item that's attracting our attention not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but around the world in the 21st century.
Very lawfully, and we built up the resources, and today your party is close to completing the construction of a brand new multi-story building at Badizé House, built after 13 years of toil. And we are renovating the old building at the same time. All of a sudden, without one shred of evidence that they could present to anybody, they start a narrative that contractors and government projects building Badizé House. Could you believe that? And that is meant to tarnish the effort that you have made for the last 13 years.
Last Saturday, he held that rally. What did he do? He bleated. He bawled. He cried. Blubbered like he was having a meltdown. You need to calm down. You need to relax and control yourself. Some advice: sing a song, play some music, read a book, take your goat for a walk. Enjoy your life a little instead of always being so angry. I found a poem to make you smile. It's a poem about goats, and I know how much you love goats. So let me share this poem with you, Prime Minister, and please calm down, chill. The poem is El Macho Cabrillo. There was a great lover from Tobago who went up to a farm in a repo. He gazed into a goat's eyes. He fell in love and he wanted his prize. He negotiated with a contractor who then became the goat lover's benefactor. The benefactor was told to contact Singh, who was a great lover's told to organize the thing. So Singh put the goats on a boat, which a contractor underwrote. Now they are both in Tobago, somewhere near Likuto. All of this was done in a great hurry. So soon someone going to get goat curry. But did you know that goats leaving from Pinal walk all the way up, found their way to a repo, and goes to a repo, walk across, and cross the water to go to Tobago, to Likuto?
Ladies and gentlemen, this Emancipation celebration that we started in Trinidad and Tobago very many years ago, I distinctly recall, I think it was in 2003 or 2004 thereabouts, there was a big event in our parliament because there was a project that was started, was a pilot project to focus on trying to prevent the young of the African population in the urban areas from going astray and going so far astray that their behavior could threaten the nation. That project required that the government of Trinidad and Tobago focus on the problems of the urban youth in Trinidad and Tobago, which were largely of African families. And as I stood up for that project, I was accused of racism because the project was focusing on the problem, and the problem was that Trinidad and Tobago African problem. It wasn't happening in the Chinese community or the Indian community or the Arab community. It was a problem in the African community where the African youth, by the tens of thousands, were going astray and choosing violence and criminality as a way of life. And what is worse, that was coming right out of the breakdown of the families of the African population.
And the time has come where this Emancipation Day ought not just to be a day for frivolity and wearing nice African clothes and walking in the street. The time has come for the Afro-Trinidadian population to use Emancipation Day, to focus and reflect and have serious conversations about where we are in a nation where we are underperforming in a nation.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement 2015 Festival still launch.
The dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. Let me make it abundantly clear. The property tax has already been dealt with. The dreaded property tax. Let me make it abundantly clear. The property tax has already been dealt with. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the
case, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute, whereby the Cooperative Republic of Guyana administers and exercises control over that area.
Now to Venezuela, where people are voting in a controversial referendum that the government hopes will strengthen its claim over a territory in neighbouring Guyana. The non-binding vote aims to measure popular support for Venezuela's historical claim of Essequibo, and it comes after the UN's top court ordered Caracas to take no action that would alter Guyana's control over the territory.
My wonderful friends, it's me again, the great. One more great countryman, you know. Me I go right in at this. This man in front of you, one of the most deadliest man in a Trinidad, the Trinidad scene. Then most of you probably don't know him, but who is Sunday? Sunday, him flex in a beatam. You understand? Him flex in a beatam with Prezi. Him are the second dan underneath Prezi. Now, the youth here, me hear say, him Lego Trinidad, you know, and go at England. The man them pull off a big blood cleat robbery in a Trinidad, him little soldier them. And him take the loot.
Don't forget the chocolate in the back pocket. chocolate.
Out everything, huh?
Taking out everything.
Yeah, everything to take out.
Everything I'm taking out.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, let's pull out now, man.
Go, so take your time now. Not too bad.
Let's pull out.
Taking out everything.
All of them,
Wow.
And the cheese, chocolate, the cheese, and forget to not pocket it. That's no, I know, organizing it.
My wonderful friends, it's me again, the great. Great. One more great countryman.
Shopkeeper, run the music.
Scope on my clap, some gun sound on my clap. Wap 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 wap. Contract, yeah, killing, yeah, so I'm in the top. Wap 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 wap, yeah, wap wap wap. Rifle a beat and stone, yeah, beat all.
Education, education, this is the foundation. Our rising population needs sound education to be recognized anywhere you go.
Got the award in the category of Business Studies, Creative and Performing Studies, General Studies, Language Studies, and Modern Studies/Humanities and Technical Studies.
President's Medal awardee Riker Harikaran, 18, copped the award in the category of Environmental Studies, Information and Communication Technology, Mathematics and
the foundation.
Rifle a beat and stone. On the cheerleader pam pam. The berry boy daily tell a pussy watch. Pam 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 pam. Cool we get them a wap wap wap. Wap 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 wap. Hey cello. Wap 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 wap. Dance well. White house.
Education, education, this is the foundation. Population needs sound education to be recognized anywhere you go. Have your certificate to show.
President's Medal awardee, Nishka Maharaj, 18, got the award in the category of Business Studies, Creative and Performing Studies, General Studies, Language Studies, and Modern Studies/Humanities and Technical Studies.
President's Medal awardee Riker Harikaran, 18, copped the award in the category of Environmental Studies, Information and Communication Technology, Mathematics and Natural Sciences.
The one thing that we require is for the government to make good on its commitment to remove the lien. Now, let me just go back to something very interesting with that lien issue. You would recall, after the great revelation by the leader of the opposition about RBC and Traffic Guru and all of that,
I want to ask the government now, are they prepared to sell the refinery in Paria while the assets of those are currently mortgaged to the Bank of New York Mellon? They have mortgaged the assets of Paria, Guaracara, and Heritage for US $1.173 billion. I also have with me from the company history a copy of the statement of charge. So that New York Bank Mellon has a charge against the assets of these companies. Now, what does a charge mean? It's like you have mortgaged the assets.
You were attempting to sell a complex asset.
The statement from Energy Minister Franklin Kahn just before he announced that the deal for the sale of the refinery could not be reached with Patriotic Energies. In September 2019, Cabinet announced that Patriotic was the preferred bidder. Patriotic was given a deadline of October 31st, 2020 to submit a final proposal and address some key issues. There were 3 key issues that could not be worked out.
The purchase price financing.
the one thing that we require is for the government to make good on its commitment to remove the lien. Now, let me just go back to something very interesting with that lien issue. You would recall, after the great revelation by the Traffic Guru and all of that,
I want to ask the government now, are they prepared to sell the refinery in Paria while the assets of those are currently mortgaged to the Bank of New York Mellon? They have mortgaged...
Might have a next budget to come in. That might kill them because it's causing so much pain and diarrhea. If this is causing so much pain and gastrointestinal distress, what's going to happen in the next budget? What?
Live Hotel. The People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel. The People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel. The People's National Movement 2015 Festival to launch.
The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Police CNC3, one of the more contentious issues in a large general property tax. Where in the PNM's manifesto is this addressed?
It's not in the document. It's not in the document. It's not in the document. This is one of the things we need to talk to people about.
Let me take that one. I'm glad you raised that. The dreaded property tax. Let me make it abundantly clear. As I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for London building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this...
The Honorable Minister of Works and Transport said the point 4. In the history of Trinidad and Tobago, even though this PNM government has paid $11 million for a commission of inquiry that has started, it they even started, not even on your marks. They may even gone down, but $11 million gone. But the Honorable Minister of Works and Transport had the unmitigated gall to say that the Point 14 highway which the contractor was selected by the PNM OAS before May 24th, and negotiations based on the Hansard of the Honorable Member for Diego Martin Northeast back in 2016 would show that negotiations with the contractor, about that word. But let me ask the Honorable Minister of Works and Transport if he ever heard of something called the Brian Lara Stadium. That was budgeted at $175 million and ended up at $1.3 billion. That was, the entire complex was budgeted at $850 million under the PNM to include a cricket stadium, 3 AstroTurf, a 50-meter pool, gym, cafeteria, hotel. And now the stadium alone, the average cost per seat is $130,000 US per seat. Every citizen that go there to watch a CPL match should look under their seat and see if they get a diamond ring from that PNM. And they're talking about corruption. What about we still looking for the horse and them in Caroni Racing Complex? Where the horse and them? I want to put a bet. You talking about the greatest corruption? Caroni Racing Complex, over $200 million, when a million was a million. If you equate that to nowadays, like $1.6 billion, and not a horse run, a horse even canter. Bridgman's NGC Atlantic train won $233 million when everybody tell you don't spend no money, and you're talking about corruption. Scarborough Hospital, the financial complex, fake oil, just so. A man say, listen, I was producing 200 barrels a day, now I gone up to 12,000 barrels a day. Woo, they come and boast in the parliament. Well, if that was true with the fake oil, then their former senatorial colleague and Rowley's best friend should have been the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister's best friend, should have been given all the land acreage in Trinidad to drill for oil since he was so good. Why didn't, if it was not fake, if it was high performance, I believe in merit. If a man and his company and his technology is so good to increase the production on an oil field by 600, 800%, I say game all, because the people will benefit. And in the United National Congress, we are here about the people benefiting, not recusal, not ministers renting out buildings, not friends and family and financiers getting $55 million because a building not fit for purpose and then blaming the DPP. Project Pride, $400 million. Where the Pride? The river even moved. It was to move a river to put an airport. They had no airport. The river bend and the $400 million disappear. But they're talking about corruption. PNM really.
Senator, you have 5 more minutes.
Good. I can't talk about PNM corruption in 5 minutes. BWIA, Lock Joint, Mount Hope, Tesoro, Mosquito Crack, Skinner Park, $131 million to move a FIFA football field down to a small sweat. Napa, Sapa, Shaw Park Complex, Rapid out of Paul. I nearly get asthma with that. Rapid Rail. That Honorable Minister of Finance was the Minister of Works and Transport during that period, when somehow the Honorable Prime Minister and member for San Fernando East, Patrick Mervyn Augustus Manning, was put on a plane, a Bombardier jet, and just so the Express found out where he went, how they fly, what he ate, and so on. And then there was something called Trini Train that was below Bombardier, but the Prime Minister went on a Bombardier jet, and boom, Trini Train Consortium came up to win. Do you know that Trini Train Consortium, part thereof, was paid $481 million for a feasibility study to say, boy, what the train, if it go move, what speed it should move, where it should pass, how it will go, should it go up or should it go down? $481 million. And this PNM government has the audacity to talk about corruption. What about the 4 vessels that they purchased when the Minister of Finance was then Minister of Works and Transport that never sail a day? And they spent $65 million to try and fix it. They all tie up there and 4 of them sink, one holding up the next 3. And then Iowa want to buy it. He win a tender, then they say nothing for you, Iowa. That is the PNM. Central Block. They finished a beautiful building. I must say the building is beautiful. Around the Savannah, the administrative complex for people who manage the healthcare system. Now, you can't get a Panadol. You can't get your oncology drugs. You can't get dialysis. You're sleeping in the hallway. When rain fall in the hospital, orderly taking nurse on the back and pushing wheelchair. But PNM build a beautiful building. Now it has no parking, but it's sweet. It's lovely. But when you look past it, you look about 600 meters so, and you look up, you see a shell that there you, the court chairman, said will be complete by February next year, but nothing in it, just some red steel that looks similar to the steel by Balize House, and they're talking about corruption, central block, nothing for the people, but building going up with favorite contractor, World GTL, and Nikwan, well, boy, I don't have no time now. World GTL, Malcolm Jones, lawyer is the Honorable Stuart Young. Let me just put a small pin right here to say that Nikwan fiasco is the most corruption in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And PNM should never be talking. And it now embroils one of the greatest banks in the history of the Caribbean. It now involves Republic Bank because 100 and somehow Nikwan, however you want to pronounce it, was able to get $120 million US loan on assets that were questionable. The people of Trinidad and Tobago are now holding the PNM bag because ministerial gas went to it. The assets were sold to Nikwan for 10 million US cash and 25 million in preference shares. Well, we prefer not to have the shares because the shares are worth nothing. That is PNM, and them have the audacity to come and talk about corruption with a road that exists, that a road that people could drive on, that people could move and reach. That is PNM. Las Alturas, Renaissance, Tobago, 120. I like race, swimming, football, running race, anything. I even like race because I is a Douglas, Indian African. But them build $120 million goat race track and talking about corruption. Once a year, some goat hold it and run down there. They just go and dance and play crab race. 120 million, and this PNM have the audacity to talk about corruption. I'm running out of time, but what I would tell you is, the PNM, they mismanaged Petrotrin, the people fired, people have to pay. They mismanaged the NIS, people now who was looking to retire, they say, boy, band your belly and work harder. They mismanage NGC, no big thing, that's a blop. They'll make back that, says the Honorable Minister of Energy. They mismanage the economy, they increase taxes and say, we didn't take everything from all you. They mismanage the foreign exchange, they come and tell you it's greater demand. When there is no demand greater than it has been in the last 20 years, it is a supply problem from their mismanagement. They mismanage roads and drainage, people suffer in flood. They mismanage roads and drainage, people in gridlock. People can't stick in sinkhole. PNM changed the word pothole to sinkhole. PNM created a new level and category of pothole. They mismanage the government and people pay by negative impact of crime. They even mismanage wardrobe and a prime minister to be in Canada in a tracksuit. Thank you, Mr. President.
The exit of these two men from public life saw them heading to the high courts to defend their tenures. Malcolm Jones, the former Petrotrin chairman, was sued after a forensic report into the construction of the failed gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre, while Professor Ken Julian was taken to court following a corruption probe into a UTT-run guest house in Aripo. Now, Communications Minister Maxi Coffey is announcing that Cabinet has approved both men to sit on an energy standing committee, chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley.
The Parliament dissolves itself on June 17th, you'll get more and more of that foolishness. More and more of those lies. That veil of innocence has been removed. So you can see and hear from their own mouths what they really are. These are the people who are taking this country to hell in a handbasket. But I'll tell you one thing, my understanding of hell is this. There's a hotter place for people like that. Because he who doeth his master's will and doeth it not shall be beaten with many stripes.
The minute you oppose my good friend, he gets very, very angry. And if you oppose him strongly, Mr. Speaker, he becomes a raging bull.
There is the fear for safety and security for families in Trinidad and Tobago.
The opposition leader claims since Dr. Rowley took office, there have been upwards of 500 murders. But instead of addressing the country on important issues such as this, the Prime Minister is running from his responsibilities.
I do not want to answer the questions as to why you have failed to deal with crime.
Mrs. Prasad Bissessa adds that the PNM government has not delivered on any action.
The people of Trinidad and Tobago, with the fullest support of all of us who identify with this People's National Movement. Life goes on very much as it was the day before. Because as the French say, the more it changes, the more it remains the same. But I simply want to remind that things remain the same in the political arena. As of tonight, things remain the same in the cabinet. And as the sun comes up tomorrow morning, things remain the same in Trinidad. On the 8th of September, the morning after the election, if you wake up to the same arrangements, your life will be the 8th of September, the morning after the election, if you wake up to the same arrangements, your life will be the same and possibly worse. On the 8th of September, I'm a proud black man in this country and you have offended me.
Dr. Rowley is demanding an apology.
I know what the yellow bananas mean. It's monkey that spirit banana. But people hungry in Trinidad and Tobago and you feed the monkeys banana. You could go to hell with that. We are better than that in Trinidad and Tobago.
Balazay House has fallen. The assertion made by opposition.
I must say, I am very disappointed. Hugely disappointed. And I think that something has to be radically wrong, where the Parliament, in inquiring about the performance of certain government departments, could be told over and over that the reason why we can't function is because we don't have staff. And the reason why we don't have staff is because I know where to put them. And the government heard that because the government was being accused of not providing the wherewithal for the department to function. But the government wants it to function. And of course, the government did the best that the government could do, which was to find executive office. That office was the executive headquarters of a bank. So you can imagine the level of comfort that exists in there. The government agreed to pay the high rental for that property. Not cheap, because high-class executive office in Port of Spain is not cheap. We entered into a contract for it, a 3-year contract. We had to outfit it to suit the department that was going to go in there. We did all that. Then we heard that there were security issues. We spent money strengthening the security. Bulletproof in here, this, that, there. We did all of that. At the end of the day, after we spent $55 million, a public servant could decide, I'm not going in there. Something has to be wrong with that. Something has to be wrong with that. And as a taxpayer, I'm incensed that that could happen in Trinidad and Tobago.
Maybe the location and the crime situation.
Because tonight, I want to call on all party members, wherever you are, whoever you're voting for in this election, I want you to pledge a financial contribution to your party, which we are at the roof stage now. And as soon
as this internal election is over on December 4th, I expect to be your leader. And from the 5th of December, our next program is to come to you on an individual membership basis to make your contribution from $1 to $1 million to finish that building. Bottom line is, at the end of the day, the members of parliament wrote the president and told him, that they're supporting me, and thus I was appointed opposition leader. But I had to deal with Balize House too. This perfect period and this perfect organization that I am now not carrying on. You know what my portion was? One of the first meetings I had was in a bank. Because a banker called me and told me, hey, your party owes this bank $4 million. And if it's not paid, we will have to, the only asset the party had was Balize House. So my first job as leader of the PNM was to save Balize House. The second thing, I think